A lady identifying herself as Dina Delaney established contact with me. She said she found my websites on YouTube, the Eden vs. John website, by searching for bones found in the Ansonia or Seymour area, I think she said. And she also found my website where I try to sell my book. And she also had my family members' personal phone numbers. So that's a well-connected lady there to have all that information. Basically because nobody could get in touch with me through YouTube anymore. Outside a few friends I had in high school, nobody knows about my book or showed any interest in my book. People are not even interested in hearing the free audiobook or watching the music cartoon videos that I do about the book. And she also has my dad's personal phone number. So she calls him first after leaving some messages on the Facebook page where I try to advertise my book. And she tells my father, and this is what my father told me, that she is involved in psychology. She's a single mother, and she also works for some grassroots organization or something, some activism group concerned with missing and exploited children. She tries to act as an advocate for missing and exploited children, and she told my father she doesn't agree with everything that's on my website, but she'd like to talk to me. And then I gave her a call, this Dina Delaney, and that was on Friday, approximately like 9 or 10 o'clock in the morning, Friday, November 14th, 2014. And basically what the agency does when you're involved with the program is they move you into an area where everybody in that area has had brushes or is involved with the program. Lots of them don't even know it, but they are. That's what the agency likes best, to program people who have no idea they're being programmed. That's the whole point of being programmed. So when you move into a community like that, everybody's had brush-ins with the agency, but most are so easy to control, they're not even regarded anymore by the agency other than they're just somebody else in that community. So you're surrounded by them. And so I get to know the handlers pretty well. Their attitude is all the same. It's like they're coming off a hive mind. It's just like one personality out of the agency, and that's it. And to describe this personality, which had infected this Dina Delaney, to describe what the personality is, it's a whole lot of nothing. Because ultimately that's what they have for the American people. They have all the money, they have all the extravagance, and they put all that effort into the great nothingness. So they have a whole lot of nothing, and it comes through with their personalities and the way they conduct themselves. I guess they're used to dealing with people that aren't using all their mental capacities, because their stories become simply unbelievable and redundantly fake. So the first thing I did was I asked her not to send any more messages to the Facebook page where I'm trying to advertise a children's book. And she's like, well, that's the only way I could get in touch with you. I said, fine, but I called you on this cell phone number. Just call me on this cell phone number from now on. I said, what could I help you with? And she told me she can't tell me the specifics, but about 10 years ago, a friend of hers, I believe she said, went missing in that area. And so she did a search on the internet, bones found in, I guess she said Seymour or Ansonia area, and my website came up. I said, how could I help you with that? And she wanted me to show her where I found what was the large tibia, the exact location. And I said, well, I drew the map. You got to go down Hatted Road, and it's along the bank there. And she said, well, I want the exact location so I could bring back cadaver dogs. And I said, what agency do you work for? And she goes, I don't work for any agency. And I said, you don't work for any agency and you have cadaver dogs on hand? And then I forget what her answer was, but she said that it was part of the organization that she was with that has no government affiliation. And I said, okay, that's fine. The last thing I want to do is if some agency is trying to actually investigate this, which I highly doubt at this point, I don't want to turn my back on them. So they contacted me. I have to help them out the best I can. Even if they just want to waste my time and play games and be jerk-offs as usual. By sending know-it-all morons who are compartmentalized bitches that don't even know what they're doing. And I say this because I said, okay, I could go meet you at that spot where I found what looked like an adult tibia, a large tibia. And I could show you where I found that. I said, however, if you have cadaver dogs, I would highly recommend going up to the ridge area that I exposed in those documentaries called the Naugatuck State Forest Incident. And she basically said that she didn't watch all the videos. She wasn't certain about all the videos that I was talking about. So that sent up a red flag, because if it was me and I had a friend go missing, I did a search on the internet for bones found. Somebody finds a bone and does an investigation on it, has a 7-part series that's just like an hour and a half on the internet. I wouldn't watch the first 15-20 minutes of it and then decide to give him a call. Anybody would say the first thing they want to do is hear the whole documentary before establishing contact. At least I would. So I would at least know what to say to the individual. Hear the whole investigation. But no, not for Agent Dina Delaney, who's compartmentalized. They're not going to let her probably watch the whole investigation. They're going to probably tell her what to say, which is call me up and waste my time. And so when she calls up, she doesn't know about the whole investigation. And then she's going to decide to meet me and want me to bring her over to an area without even watching my whole investigation. She doesn't even have time to watch the whole hour and a half documentary. But she has time to waste my time and bring me down there so I could point exactly where I found that tibia. Now I said to her, basically, the cops are moving around evidence. I've established that in the documentary. I said that whole place has a military history. The military is involved in mind control operations like MK Ultra, which is basically creating killers. That's not any new information for anybody who's looked into mind control. And that area, the Ansonia Derby area, is involved with that up to their eyeballs. So I said this cop acted strangely. I highlighted this point. I made a point of stating this in the documentary. I don't know anybody in their right mind, when directed to where the human bone was, is to turn around 180 degrees and look in back of them along the bank of the reservoir. And then turn back, glance at the bone and say, oh, that's a deer bone, and walk away. All his behavior was very strange. All his behavior suggested to me that he was involved with mind control. He had placed or was familiar with where that bone was placed ahead of time. And by me kicking it off the bank of the reservoir 2 feet up toward the brush had thrown him off a bit. And he wasn't really interested in the bone because, after all, him or his team had placed that strategically in that area. Why? You come up with your answer. I don't know what goes through the minds of these fucking raving lunatics. But his behavior suggested that he knew where the bone was originally. So I stated this, and I said to her, you told my father that you were an advocate for missing and exploited children. And I said, if I were you, if you have access to cadaver dogs, you would go up to that ridge location and look around that ridge location. And she said to me, what reason do you have to think that there's kids buried up there? And I said, the balloons give me reason to believe that kids are buried up there. And she said, well, I would just think that the balloons just floated up there. And I said, maybe if there's one balloon up there, maybe. But like I said in the documentary video, it looked like over a long period of time, over a period of years, balloons had been brought up there, were up there in different stages of deterioration. One looked a few years old, one looked a couple years old, one looked a year old, one looked relatively new. And she goes, where were those balloons found or something like that? I'm like, you need to go back and watch the documentary videos. I took a lot of my time to make my statement and put on the internet. And you act like you're not even interested in watching the whole series, and you want to bring cadaver dogs down and look at where the police have been throwing the tibias instead of this area that looks highly suspect. So this lady is a Fed. She just wants to waste time. She's probably involved with covering up the whole affair. And the last thing that comes to mind about this situation is that at the start of the conversation, she begins to act as an apologist for the Ansonia PD. She says, yeah, to be fair, the deer's anterior bone or something like that is often mistaken for the tibia. And I feel like asking, how often do you have this issue with cops mistaking deer's anterior bones for tibias? You know, in the program there, honey. And then a few minutes later into the conversation, she stated, we've had nothing but problems with the Ansonia Police Department. So she goes back and forth because even if they are handlers, they're graduates of the MK Ultra program themselves. They're not going to all of a sudden just step into the role of handler without going through the program and making sure that they're not going to grow a conscience for the War Corp, the Death Corporation, the military, who are all into creating like robotic assassins or Manchurian candidates. This shouldn't be any new information for anybody. So this is a warning to whatever this agency is that Dina Delaney works for. My guess it's the CIA using FBI credentials. Keep on making an ass out of yourselves, and I'll keep on exposing you making an ass out of yourselves. One day you're going to grow a brain and realize you're your own worst enemy.